Dear viewers, today we see hormonal regulation of physiological processes, basic concepts and methods. Introduction. The endocrine system consists of glands which secrete hormones into the bloodstream. Each hormone has an effect on one or more target tissues. In this way, the endocrine system regulates the metabolism and development of most body cells and body systems. To be more specific, the endocrine system has sex hormones that can activate sebaceous glands, development of mammary glands, alter dermal blood flow and release lipids from adipocytes, and MSH can stimulate melanocytes on our skin. Our bone growth is regulated by several hormones, and the endocrine system helps with the mobilization of calcitonin and calcium. In the muscular system, hormones adjust muscle metabolism, energy production and growth. In the nervous system, hormones affect neural metabolism, regulate fluid or electrolyte balance and help with reproductive hormones that influence CNS development and behaviors. In the cardiovascular system, we need hormones that regulate the production of RBCs which elevate and lower blood pressure. Hormones also have anti-inflammatory effects and stimulate the lymphatic system. In short, the endocrine system has a regulatory effect on basically every other body system. Feedback control systems are fundamental for the normal physiological functioning and homeostasis of the body. There are two types of feedback, negative and positive, of which the former is the more common. Removal of the main pituitary target glands, the adrenal, gonads and thyroid, the most reproducible and reproduced experiment in classical endocrinology, demonstrates that the secretion of pituitary adrenocorticotropin, that is ACTH, the gonadotropins, that is luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, that is FSH, and thyrotropin, that is TSH, is controlled by negative feedback exerted by the adrenal corticosteroids, gonadal steroids and thyroid hormones respectively. Feedback mechanisms. To maintain the body's homeostasis and respond appropriately to changes in the environment, hormone production and secretion must be tightly controlled. To achieve this control, many bodily functions are regulated not by a single hormone but by several hormones that regulate each other. For example, for many hormone systems, the hypothalamus secretes so-called releasing hormones which are transported via the blood to the pituitary gland. There, the releasing hormones induce the production and secretion of pituitary hormones, which in turn are transported by the blood to their target glands, for example, the adrenal glands, gonads or thyroid. In those glands, the interaction of the pituitary hormones with their respective target cells results in the release of the hormones that ultimately influence the organs targeted by the hormone cascade. Constant feedback from the target glands to the hypothalamus and pituitary gland ensures that the activity of the hormone system involved remain within appropriate boundaries. Thus, in most cases, negative feedback mechanisms exist by which hormones released by the target glands affect the pituitary gland and or hypothalamus. When certain predetermined blood levels of those hormones are reached, the hypothalamus and or the pituitary ceases hormone release, thereby turning off the cascade. In some instances, a so-called short loop feedback occurs in which pituitary hormones directly act back on the hypothalamus. Feedback mechanisms are more common than neural mechanisms. The term feedback means that some element of the physiological response to a hormone feeds back either directly or indirectly on the endocrine gland that secreted the hormone, changing its secretion rate. Negative and positive feedback mechanisms. In negative feedback loop, stimulus starts a process and eventually either the hormone that is secreted or a product of its effects causes the process to slow down or turn off. Many hormonal systems work by negative feedback mechanisms, although positive feedback system is less common. Long loop feedback means that the hormone feeds back all the way to the hypothalamic pituitary target axis, that is 3 organs. Short loop feedback means that the anterior pituitary hormone feeds back on the hypothalamus to inhibit secretion of hypothalamic releasing hormone, that is 2 organs, and a third possibility called ultra short loop feedback, that is 1 organ, in which the hypothalamic hormone inhibits its own secretion. For example, growth hormone releasing hormone, that is GHRH, inhibits GHRH secretion. The following are the controlling mechanisms exist: hormone control, hormone metabolite control, hormone nervous control, and hormone water balance. Examples of negative and positive feedback mechanisms: adrenal gland and stress. In response to stress, the hypothalamus initiates both an endocrine response and autonomic nervous system response. Activation of the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, that is HPA axis, which regulates various metabolic functions, is initiated with the release of corticotropin releasing hormone, that is CRH, from the hypothalamus. This release occurs in response to various stimuli, including almost any type of physical or psychological stress, during the normal sleep-wake cycle, and in response to certain neurotransmitters. CRH then stimulates the anterior pituitary to produce ACTH. In addition to CRH, vasopressin from the hypothalamus also can stimulate ACTH release. ACTH in turn activates adrenal cortical hormone production, primarily of cortisol, which mediates the specific physiological effects of this hormone system. The activity of the HPA axis is regulated by negative feedback mechanisms. Thus, increased cortisol levels repress CRH release by the hypothalamus and ACTH release by the pituitary. In addition, ACTH can directly inhibit hypothalamic CRH release. In autonomic nervous system response, there is nervous stimulation via hypothalamus to adrenal medulla, which results in secretion of medullary hormones, that is epinephrine and norepinephrine. These hormones maintain and sustain fight or flight response. the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid, that is HPT axis. The hormones that make up the HPT axis control the metabolic processes of all cells in the body and are therefore crucial for the organism to function normally. The secretion of TRH from the hypothalamus activates the HPT axis. After reaching the pituitary, TRH stimulates the release of TSH, which in turn promotes the production and release of T4 and T3 by the thyroid gland. Negative feedback effects of T4 and T3 on both the hypothalamus and the pituitary regulate the HPT system through long and short loop and is for other hormones of this system. Regulation of blood calcium level. The parathyroid glands secrete parathyroid hormone which regulates the blood calcium amount. If calcium decreases, the parathyroid glands sense the decrease and secrete more parathyroid hormone. The parathyroid hormone stimulates calcium release from the bones and increase the calcium uptake into the bloodstream from the collecting tubules in the kidneys. Conversely, if blood calcium increases too much, the parathyroid glands reduce parathyroid hormone production. Both responses are example of negative feedback because in both cases the effects are negative, that is opposite to the stimulus. Regulation of the blood glucose level. Regulation of blood calcium and glucose level is an example of negative feedback that do not utilize the hypothalamic pituitary axis. For example, insulin regulates blood glucose concentration. In turn, insulin secretion is turned on or off by changes in blood glucose concentration. Here, when there is high glucose concentration in blood, beta cells of islets of Langerhans secretes insulin which act on liver and lower the blood glucose concentration. Insulin has following actions: increase glucose uptake among several target tissues, increases cellular respiration, increases glycogen formation, increases triglyceride synthesis in adipose connective tissue. But when there is low blood glucose concentration, alpha cells of islets of Langerhans secretes glucagon which acts more, that is positive control, on liver and increases blood glucose concentrations. Glucagon has following actions: increase glycogen production in liver, increases glycogen breakdown in liver and muscle, increases triglyceride breakdown in adipose connective tissue. In this way, blood glucose concentration is maintained. Water balance and antidiuretic hormone, that is ADH. ADH or vasopressin plays an important role in the body's water and electrolyte economy. Thus, ADH release promotes the reabsorption of water from the urine in the kidneys. Through this mechanism, the body reduces urine volume and conserves water. The main stimulus to ADH release into the pituitary gland is an increase in plasma osmolality, which is detected by osmoreceptors, that is water receptors in the hypothalamus. ADH release from posterior pituitary acts on kidney. In response to elevated level of ADH, the distal convoluted tubule and collecting ducts synthesize proteins that make the tubules permeable to water. As water flows through the tubules embedded within the salty medulla, water is reabsorbed by osmosis. The other important stimulus to ADH release is a reduction in the effective circulating volume, that is hemorrhage. This is detected by baroreceptors, that is pressure receptors in the aortic arch and carotid sinus. Once plasma osmolality is returned to normal, a negative feedback mechanism inhibits further ADH release. Only a few positive feedback loops occurs in the human endocrine system. One such example is the process of milk release from the mammary glands. Hormonal methods. Hormones, usually a peptide, amino acid derived or steroid, produced by glands and conveyed by bloodstream to effect physiological activity such as growth or metabolism. Many hormones can be measured, that is assayed or identified in the blood to give an indication of metabolic processes and conditions or hormone imbalance. These include male and the female sex hormones, that is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and hormones secreted by other glands such as pituitary, parathyroid and adrenal glands. There are several types of hormonal assays. Some common assays are radioimmunoassay, that is RIA, enzyme immunoassay, that is EIA, or enzyme linked immunoadsorbent assay, that is ELISA, that is ELISA, radioreceptor assay, that is RRA, immunofluorescent assay, that is IF, and immunohistochemistry. Radioimmunoassay. Radioimmunoassay allows for the measurement of wide range of materials of clinical and biological importance. This technique has a significant impact on medical diagnosis due to the ease with which the test can be carried out while assuring precision, specificity and sensitivity. The radioimmunoassay technique, as the name implies, achieves sensitivity through the use of radionuclides and specificity that is uniquely associated with immunochemical reactions. Yellow and Burson were awarded the Nobel Prize for pioneering radioimmunoassay when they evolved radioimmunological assay for insulin. At about the same time, Roger Kane also published his work on determination of serum thyroxine using a competitive binding assay. In later system, the naturally occurring thyroxine binding globulin, that is TBG, was used as binding protein and radioactive label thyroxine, that is T4, was used as tracer. Through not strictly an immunological test, the principle of competitive binding of compound under test to a specific protein remains the same. The radioimmunological determination of thyroid stimulating hormone, that is TSH, was demonstrated by Odell and thyroxine by Murphy. In principle, a known quantity of an antigen is made radioactive frequently by labeling it with gamma radioactive isotopes of iodine such as 125I attached to tyrosine. This radio-labeled antigen is then mixed with a known amount of antibody for that antigen, and as a result the two specifically bind to one another. Then a sample of serum from a patient containing an unknown quantity of that same antigen is added. This causes the unlabeled or cold antigen from the serum to compete with the radiolabeled antigen that is hot for antibody binding sites. As the concentration of cold antigen is increases, more of it binds to the antibody, displacing the radiolabeled variant and reducing the ratio of antibody bound radiolabeled antigen to free radiolabeled antigen. The bound antigens are then separated from the unbound ones and the radioactivity of the free antigen remaining in the supernatant is measured using a gamma counter. Using known standards, a standard curve can then be generated which allows the amount of antigen in the patient's serum to be derived. ELISA, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, that is ELISA, are plate based assay designed for detecting and quantifying substances such as peptides, proteins, antibodies and hormones. Other names such as enzyme immunoassay, that is EIA, are also used to describe the same technology. In an ELISA, an antigen must be immobilized to a solid surface and then complexed with an antibody that is linked to an enzyme. Detection is accomplished by assessing the conjugated enzyme activity via incubation with a substrate to produce a measurable product. The most crucial element of the detection strategy is a highly specific antibody-antigen interaction. ELISA can be performed with a number of modifications to the basic procedure. These are direct ELISA, indirect ELISA, sandwich ELISA and competition or inhibition ELISA. Radioreceptor assay. Significant advances in understanding the actions of hormones, neurotransmitters and drugs resulted from the development of new analytic procedures. Among these advances, the discovery that for a given drug or hormone or neurotransmitter, there exists receptor site on membranes to which the substance must attach in order to evoke a biological response led to the setting up of the radioreceptor assay. Thus, ligand binding techniques can be used as assay for measuring drug levels in biological tissues and fluids. Radioreceptor assays are based on the principle of competitive protein binding methods. When a radioligand and an unlabeled ligand are present together with a specific receptor preparation, the amount of radioactive ligand bound to the receptor is a quantitative function of the amount of unlabeled ligand present in the incubation medium. The technology of the radioreceptor assay is simple and rapid to perform when optimal conditions for binding are determined. Radioreceptor assays are highly sensitive, reliable, precise and accurate. The chief limitation relates to specificity, as any substance having an appreciable affinity for the receptor displaces the specifically bound radioligand. Paradoxically, this lack of specificity may be in some cases advantageous in that it allows for the detection of the parent compound and active metabolites in proportion to their affinity for the specific receptor. During recent years, radioreceptor assays have been applied to quantitative determination of hormones, neurotransmitters and drugs. Immunofluorescence. Immunofluorescence is an antigen-antibody reaction where the antibodies, that is monoclonal, are tagged, that is labeled, with a fluorescent dye, and the antigen-antibody complex is visualized using ultraviolet, that is fluorescent microscope. Fluorochromes are dyes that absorb ultraviolet rays and emit visible lights. This process is called fluorescence. Commonly used fluorochromes are acridine orange, rhodamine, etc. However, these fluorochromes are used for general fluorescence. When fluorescein FITC is excited by a blue light, that is wavelength 488 nanometer, it will emit a green color, that is at wavelength 520 nanometer. Phycoerythrin PE emits an orange color at 570 nanometer wavelength. The fluorochromes commonly used in immunofluorescence are fluorescein isothiocyanate, that is FITC, and the tetramethyl rhodamine isothiocyanate, that is RED. Immunohistochemistry. Monoclonal antibodies are tagged with fluorescent dyes and are reacted with the cells or tissue pieces. After washing, are subjected to fluorescent microscope to identify specific peptide or protein present in the cells or tissue pieces of interest. Let us summarize. Endocrine glands are able to synthesize, accumulate and release of special hormones into circulation at optimal levels for their physiological actions in the target tissue. But their optimal levels are regulated by hormones, nerves and metabolites by feedback mechanisms for homeostasis. Such hormonal molecules are measured and identified by techniques like RIA, ELISA, RRA, immunofluorescence and immunochemistry at micro levels. Thank you.